We are here in the European Parliament in Brussels again, and we have just concluded our 9th annual policy conference. A conference which many of the delegates said was the best one so far, and I wouldn't disagree. The conference was looking at the overall picture of EU-Israeli relations today in 2012 after the Arab Spring. But as the ambassador pointed out, this is not the end of the Arab Spring. We are in the middle of something in almost like a reconfiguration of the situation in the Middle East right now. And there's so much which are still open ends that we need to discuss and also to be cautious about. I think the most impressive interventions that we heard today came from Werner Oder, son of an SS officer, who shared his story about how he came out of a legacy of anti-Semitism and Jew hatred, and today is such an eloquent supporter and defender of the Jewish state.
It is sad to see that anti-Semitism is sort of hidden behind the cloud of political correctness, which a lot of churches get sucked into that these days, that people don't realize the danger. And a lot of the emphasis today of people who promote the anti-Israel campaign is basically is to do away with the Jews. There's a conspiracy that politicians of the world trying today to build a new world order without Israel and without Christianity. And so that's where the danger is, and we have to see this and we have to speak out to that, against that.
Do you believe this Parliament will give Jewish people a voice across Europe, but also stand against the rise of anti-Semitism that sadly looks like it's returning again to the continent of Europe?
You know, I'm confident, and on the other side, I'm not candid. Anti-Semitism was here before us, before my birth. It will be there after us, after my death. We have to deal with it, but we have to stand up, we have to fight. We know that this kind of very strong and dark feelings, it's part of the human nature, but that's the dark side. The bright side is that, as we saw today, one of the panelists at the conference is a son of SS officer.
It is not a secret that in some layers in societies in Europe there is anti-Semitism, there are prejudices against the Jews, and I think that the daily working of organizations like the one you represent are not only important, they are crucial in their importance for Europeans, I think.
History is a proof that man learns nothing from history, and especially politicians don't seem to learn anything from history. And it's not down to the politicians to learn from history, it's down to us as Christians and people who stand with Israel, is to actually lead the way in learning the lessons from history, because there's a conspiracy today, a campaign to falsify history. Almost every nation has got its own way of falsifying history, that they're trying to delete the negative things in a nation's history and kind of focus on something that seems to be irrelevant. And we have to just say that history is a silent recorder of the events that will teach us how not to make decisions. And we have to learn those lessons today, and we have to be aggressive in putting those lessons across so that people will listen and say, hey, just a minute, we have a legacy we have to consider.
Also, I would mention the intervention of CALEV Myers to present the report, which is so clearly demonstrating the lack of coherence between EU policy of, on the one hand, trying to support human rights and at the same time just allowing the gravest violations of basic human rights in the Palestinian areas and a culture of hatred to flourish in schools and even kindergartens.
What we did in our report is we looked at the Palestinian Authority through the lenses of the International Declaration of Human Rights from 1948. And so we checked to see how the Palestinian Authority relates to women, relates to children's rights. We look at the rule of law, at democracy, separation of power, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, freedom of expression. And what we really see is that the Palestinian Authority is a radical Islamic dictatorship that denies its citizens these basic human rights. And the thing that's of grave concern is that this regime is being supported heavily by the European Union, and as well as the United States and other Western societies, with very little, if at all, accountability as to where these funds are going.
This was perhaps one of the main messages of the conference, to say that we as citizens, we as taxpayers in the European Union, we have a responsibility to make sure that the money that we spend on the Palestinians are being well spent, is in compliance with universal values, but also that it's accounted for in a correct way. And I believe this is something which will empower our activists. We will make our documentation available. This will be brought to the attention of many, many members of national parliaments. It has been presented here in the European Parliament to the chairman of the Budgetary Control Committee already. Again, I believe this is only shows that with well-trained and well-educated supporters of Israel, we can make a difference.
My own personal story with ECI is relatively young. I've only really been involved for about the last 10 weeks, being invited to a conference in Oxford, which introduced me to most of what little I currently know about Israel. But the more I read about it, and the more that I look at news sources and compare them to the other material that I now have to hand, it is a lot easier to see through the veil that so much of the media does attempt to put up and tries to divert or move foreign policy in accordance to their preferences.
I think in Slovakia the older generation is pro-Israel, because during Second World War there was a big Holocaust in Slovakia. Many Jewish people went to concentration camps, but I can see in the younger generation that they make many jokes about Jews when it's talking about money, about trade. And I see that we need to improve some relation between young generation in Slovakia and Jews, and orientate it pro-Israel.
I'm currently working for a humanitarian organisation as part of my Erasmus placement year, and that's where the real struggles have set in, especially at the moment with the escalation between Israel and Gaza. I've had to participate in calls, and the stuff that I'm hearing on these conference calls is not good. Definitely not in line with the facts that I know to be true. And it seems like things are being played up in the media that are just totally against trying to demonize Israel, which is hard to deal with. But this conference has really given me some key facts to kind of fight back with in a peaceful way. So I think it's really helped me so I'll be able to go back to my job on Monday and really express my point of view and fight for Israel.
We would welcome each one of you to be part of this work. You can start by going to our website, subscribe to our newsletter, attend future conferences, and this way make a difference here in Europe.